Allegiance. Tonight's invocation is being offered by Mr. Chris Shute, a guest of Councilman Anthony Davis.
Let's pray. Thank you, God, for the privilege of being here in America tonight, where we can gather together and voice our opinions and actually vote. And God, specifically, thank you for allowing us to be here in Nashville, Tennessee. God, we're a boomtown now, and you've showed your favor on us. And God, give us the wisdom tonight to make great decisions, and give us the humility to work together and break our hearts so we'll care about those who are suffering still, God, because yes, we're a boomtown, but there's so many people out here still without jobs. I mean, the unemployment rate is 8.4%, and we're worried about holiday gifts and our parties, and there's people out here still worried about paying their rent and their electric bill. And God, be with them, and God, give them a job, and bring industry here, and give them a spirit of entrepreneurship, and break our hearts so we can see them and help them and give them a step up, God. God, anoint every leader here tonight, and let us be able to walk out of here saying that we did the best for Nashville, for our families and our children. We love you, God, and keep blessing Nashville. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Without objection, we'll suspend the calling of the roll and ask the clerk to record the names of the members present throughout the meeting. Is there a motion for the approval of our minutes from our November 19th meeting? We have a motion and a second. Without objection, the minutes will stand approved as written. Madam Clerk, are there any messages from the mayor?
There are no messages from the mayor.
Thank you. I'd like to remind everyone in the chamber that you need to find a seat. If you cannot find a seat, you will need to go out on the mezzanine, please. Councilmember Berry, do you have a presentation?
Don doesn't know he's actually being honored this evening. I don't know how they got him down here under these pretenses, but I have before me tonight Don Klein, and tonight we are offering up a resolution recognizing Don Klein, the Chief Executive Officer of the Greater Nashville Association of Realtors, on the occasion of his retirement. Whereas Don Klein is retiring in December of this year after serving the Greater Nashville Association of Realtors for the past 16 years, and during his time there, the association has been recognized for excellence nationally, statewide, and regionally. And whereas Don is originally from Muskegon, Michigan. Muskegon, I'm close. He attended John Brown University, the University of Oklahoma, and Tennessee State University. And early in his career, Don had a measure of success as a trumpet player, as part of a group that performed with many pop and country artists, including appearing on Hee Haw with Roy Clark. And whereas, prior to joining GNAR, Don spent 21 years in advertising and public relations. His earlier career involved positions at book publishing and music business firms, as well as in advertising and public relations agencies such as Broomfield Gallagher and DVL here in Nashville. Clients he served have ranged from trade associations to political candidates, and from restaurants to healthcare firms. And whereas Don is a certified facilitator for the Investment in Excellence program created by the Pacific Institute, and whereas Don, under his leadership, the Greater Nashville Association of Realtors has accomplished quite a bit, having constructed 14 Habitat homes, received 2 TAR Realtors of the Year, and a host of other things. And whereas, no stranger to awards and accolades during his extraordinary career, in 2008, Don received both the William C. Bill Toon Award for Excellence in Real Estate Education from the Tennessee Real Estate Commission and the President's Award from the GNAR. And in 2007, He received the association's President's Award and for his energetic leadership of the organization among some of his great achievements. And whereas throughout his estimable career, Don Klein has demonstrated the utmost professionalism, ability, and integrity, winning the unbridled respect and admiration of his colleagues in real estate. And whereas with his retirement, Don will now have time to enjoy hunting, fishing, and other outdoor activities without regard to calendars and clocks. And whereas it is fitting and proper that the Metro Council recognizes Don for all of his great service and all of the best in his retirement. So therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, we go on record as recognizing you, Don, and we thank you so much for all of your service here in Nashville. Sure, you do, and you can say a few words if you'd like to.
Rarely have I been speechless, but from the bottom of my heart, I think I just have to say a couple of my favorite words. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
On our agenda is the proposed rule change, is the proposed amendment to rule number 47 of the Rules of Procedure of the Metropolitan Council. Councilmember Berry, committee report, please.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. At the request of the sponsor, we deferred this to one meeting. 6-4-0 against. I move a deferral for one meeting.
We have a motion and a second for the deferral. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Now we're at elections and confirmations. Councilmember Berry.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The Rules and Confirmations Committee met at for the appointment of Ms. Irwin Fisher for the Convention Center Authority, and we approved her 6-4-0 against. I move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. We are going to take Resolution RS 2013-926 out of order. It confirms the appointment of Irwin Fisher to the Board of Directors of the Convention Center Authority. Councilmember Berry, is there a committee report?
There is. We voted 6-4-0 against. I move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes.
We also met and for the reappointment of Mr. Melvin Black to the Metropolitan Development and Housing Agency. We voted 6-4-0 against, and I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes.
And last but not least, we met for the reappointment of Mr. Roy Dale to the Stormwater Management Committee, 6-4-0 against, and I move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes.
And actually now, last but not least, we also met and considered the appointment of Ms. Shannon Hall to be the new Metropolitan Clerk. We voted 6-4-0 against, and I move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. When I call your name, please stand and remain standing. Irwin Fisher, Melvin Black, Roy Dale, and Shannon Hall. On behalf of the entire Metropolitan Council, thank you for your willingness to serve and to continue to serve our great city. Thank you. Next on the agenda is RS 2013-919, exempts 210 Jack located at 1900 Eastland Avenue from the minimum distance requirements for obtaining a beer permit. Councilmember Westerholm.
I move to open the public hearing.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in support wish to speak? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Westerholm.
Thank you. I move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2013-585, changes 5.92 acres from CL, MUL, SP, RS10, OR20, CN, and R6 to MUNA, MULA zoning for various properties located along Maxey Lane, McGavock Pike, Oxford Street, and Riverside Drive. Councilmember Anthony Davis.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move to open the public hearing.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in support wish to speak? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Davis.
Move approval with a brief explanation, please.
We have a motion and a second. Councilman.
Thank you. I know we have a long agenda. I just wanted to say thanks to everyone for working on this, and just so my neighbors in Inglewood know, it's our mixed-use expansion and future planning for Riverside McGavock or Riverside Village. And wanted to thank the planning staff, Dan Heller for his visionary leadership, and also to the administration for our pedestrian plan and believing us over there. Thanks to my colleagues, and move approval. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Scott Davis.
Just I'll be brief, Vice Mayor. The development team that's working on this project also built a home in my district where all the proceeds of the selling of this very nice home went to Haiti. And this developer has gone far beyond the call of duty. I know he's shy and very modest, but he's one of our East Nashville neighbors, and he deserves, I know we can't applaud in this chamber, but he deserves a big one. And I just want to thank God and everyone here for this developer for doing that, and also helping the next door neighbor to this project put a new roof on her home. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. I need to go back and get the committee report from Councilmember Perdue for RS 2013-919. I'm sorry, I skipped right over.
That's okay. I've been skipped over by women all my life. It passed 4-0.
I'm sorry, I missed the committee report. Could you say it one more time?
It passed 4-0.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to move on to BL 2013-586. Applies the Eastwood Neighborhood Conservation Overlay District to various properties located along Eastland Avenue and Scott Avenue, totaling 2.45 acres between Porter Road and Chapel Avenue. Councilmember Westerholm.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move to open the public hearing.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Anyone in support wishing to speak, please line up at the lectern. You'll need to state your name and your address, please.
I'm Richard Quinn at 1919 Eastland Avenue, and I'm a resident of the Scott Avenue townhomes, which are the 11 properties at the corner of Scott Avenue and Eastland. We polled our members, and 7 of our townhome residents support the zoning change. 1 is in opposition, and we did not have replies from 3. So our townhome residents are in favor of the overlay change. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Brett Withers. My home address is 1113 Granada Avenue. I'm the president of the Eastwood Neighborhood Association. I wanted to address this body and let you know that the rezoning that you're seeing is a little bit contentious in that there definitely is a lot of development going on right in that corridor along Eastland, in that stretch where the Walden development is located. This past summer, we had a community meeting. Some of the homeowners had approached the neighborhood about rezoning the property for a commercial use because they had home-based businesses which are presently illegal. And in order to rectify that, they needed to get a rezoning that would allow commercial use. Councilman Westerholm and the neighborhood group held a community meeting, and the consensus at the meeting that we held was that the neighborhood would support the rezoning that would allow some limited commercial use of home-based businesses in exchange for the historic protection of those properties so that they would not be demolished at any point in the future. Most folks in our neighborhood believe that those houses are landmark buildings that maintain the residential nature of the early part of that neighborhood's development along Eastland. But we have some neighbors who are willing to see those homes used in a light way for commercial use, similar to what we have on South 11th Street in the Five Points area. So again, I would like to reiterate that at our community meetings that we held, this was a consensus that was reached with Councilman Westerholm, and I would urge you to support the rezoning to include the application of the Eastwood Neighbors Conservation Zoning Overlay. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Sherry Beard. I also live at 1919 Eastland Avenue, which is directly across the streets from the properties that came and wanted the rezoning for light commercial use in their homes. We hammered out this agreement over the course of a couple of meetings, and they were very satisfied with it, and we were very satisfied that it would not change the complexion of our neighborhood right there. We're getting very congested. It gives them an opportunity to have their small businesses that they either don't see clients in their homes, or they may see one client at a time. And therefore, I support the overlay in conjunction with the rezoning of those homes. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in support wishing to speak? Anyone in opposition wishing to speak, please line up at the lectern.
I'm Larissa Lentau. I own the property at 2005 Eastland. And I apologize, I don't have my document from a while back when I received information about the MUL possible zone change. I actually called downtown to see if I could have my lot included in that potential zone change. And I was informed that that was not possible. So I was in support of the MUL mixed use, but I heard the rumblings of the conservation overlay sort of in exchange to appease the MUL zoning, I guess the people who were in opposition. And I called the council person a couple of times to express my opposition. I never received any information, though, about this overlay being, a potential. And so that's a little troublesome. I'm adamantly opposed to it. And luckily, somebody called me today to let me know about this. So I'm in opposition of the overlay. Thanks.
Thank you. Seeing no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Westerholm. I'm sorry, if you wish to speak, please line up at the lectern.
My name is William Morris. I own the property at 2002 Eastland Avenue. And I'm another one that just found out today about the overlay. And on short notice, it's hard to prepare for it, but my property was destroyed in the 98 tornado. And at that time, I got a permit from Codes Department to demolish the property and build new there, which I did. And so all of my structures my structure is new, fairly new. And I am against the overlay. I really don't know why that Councilman Westerholm would have been against it to begin with. But the properties, well, 4 houses down from me, there's a mini mall there, a bunch of businesses. Across the street almost from me is another business, and there's quite a few businesses in there. Also, the council had approved right down the street, well, basically 4 doors down the street also, for 99 units to go in there. And that I'm sure wouldn't have anything to do with, being able to park in that area. And I just wanted to state that I am also against the overlay. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Westerholm.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I would move approval with a brief explanation.
We have a motion and a second, Councilman.
As was stated earlier, this plan came about as a result of a number of neighborhood meetings we had, and I apologize, I guess there's a few folks who did not get a chance to hear all of those. I would be happy to meet with anyone prior to this coming up on third reading to address any lingering issues that can be amended. But the result that we are coming to was the idea that this was a way to preserve the housing stock in an area that was important to a majority of neighbors who came to a series of meetings and explicitly stated that these houses matter. These houses contribute to the character of the neighborhood. And while we're fine with the uses that were permitted within parts of those, we want the housing stock to remain as coherent as possible. And if there's other changes that we want to do about zoning and uses, I think that the neighborhood has expressed, and I'm here tonight to express, I'm comfortable with having those conversations and would welcome those. But as far as the housing stock, I feel as if, based on all the meetings I've had, all that I've heard from neighbors, that I feel as if this is the direction that most folks want to see us move in. And again, please feel free to reach out to me afterwards tonight, and I'll be happy to meet with anyone who has any other questions prior to third reading. And if there's something that we identify that needs to change, I'm happy to look at that, but I want to go ahead and ask us to move forward with this tonight.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-587 changes 0.7 acres from CS to SP zoning for properties located at 4900, 4902, 4904, 4906 Tennessee Avenue to permit up to 9 residential dwelling units. Councilmember Baker.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Wish to open public hearing, please.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in support wish to speak? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Baker.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-588 changes 0.57 acres from R6 to SP zoning for properties located within the Woodland and Waverly Historic Preservation District at 2107, 2111, 2115 White Avenue to permit up to 8 residential dwelling units. Councilmember Moore.
I move to open the public hearing, Vice Mayor.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Anyone in support wishing to speak, please line up at the lectern. State your name and address, please.
Council, I'm Roy Dale. I reside at 1657 Stokely Lane. Council member Darren Jernigan is my council member. This is actually 3 lots in the Woodlands and the Waverly, which is in the historic area. On these 3 lots, currently there are 3 duplexes, which are quite out of character with the historic homes around it. And so those 3 duplex units would be removed and 8 cottage-style units would be placed there. This project is actually modeled after Germantown Commons, which is also an historic area. It's a small development in Germantown. It has 8 single-family cottage units, just like this one does. Germantown Commons is actually on a smaller parcel than this one. So this is actually a larger parcel. We've had 3 community meetings. We've also had a public hearing at the Planning Commission. I've had a lot of discussion with the community, and quite honestly, most of that evolved around, does this fit within this community? We think it did. It went to the Planning Commission. Obviously, the Planning Commission felt, based upon land use, that this was a perfect fit. Planning voted in support of this 7-0-1, and the one abstention was actually the commission member that had worked on Germantown Commons, so she felt like maybe she had a conflict. But I think this is going to be a model project for this area. All these houses are going to be built in character with the historic overlay that's there. After the Planning Commission meeting, I met with some of the constituents that were there that still did not feel like that this fit from a land use perspective. I think clearly they understand that planning supports that and feels like that it does. And what I've encouraged them to do is to continue to work with me through the process of the council. If they would like, this is an SP plan, so they have the ability to get involved in architecture and landscaping and a lot of the features that would be cast in stone with the zoning of this property, and I would encourage them to continue to do that. So again, this is supported by the Planning Commission. We think that it's going to be a great model infield project, which we're seeing more and more of in Davidson County. This site is perfectly set for that. It has an alley in the back. It has sidewalks in the front. It's very walkable. It's close to public transportation. It meets all the characteristics that planning has set aside for this type of development. And so we would ask for you to obviously support Councilmember Moore and whatever she chooses to do, and hopefully you'll support this project. Thank you.
Seeing no one else in support wishing to speak, would anyone in opposition wish to speak? Please line up at the lectern and state your name and address.
My name is Billy McAdoo. I live at 2209 Lindale Avenue in the historic Woodlawn and Waverly neighborhood. I'm also a retired Metro teacher. After 45 years, I found a perfect retirement place. I moved there in 1995. On moving there, I was given a list of do's and don'ts that I could do to my property because of the historic overlay that the property had. Not my property, but the property next door. I'm also the current president of the Woodlawn and Waverly Neighborhood Association. And we feel that allowing a variance SP in this neighborhood would affect how would that affect the stipulations in the overlay itself? Changing from a R6 to a SP, allowing 8 cottage units on a half-acre lot that now holds 3 duplexes. Our concern is about density in the neighborhood. Our concern is about parking areas in the neighborhood, and I heard that the developer said they've already been to the Historical Association, they've approved this. But we need to know what are the long-range benefits, what are the long-range damages to this type of SP in this neighborhood. So we are asking that you would at least postpone this. We are in opposition to this zoning change, and we would consider your respecting us and giving us a say-so in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Betty Horton, and I live at 726 Benton Avenue with my husband, next door to our son, who has a wife and 3 children, so I have no reason to want to move. And it's very historic. My one concern is that if it's legal, I think we should have a an opinion from Metro Legal before we jump ahead with this project. We were given guidelines in our historic district, and the guidelines say in the event of redevelopment, the historic guidelines shall prevail. Well, to me, that trumps SP zoning. The SP zoning says developers who use SP zoning must still follow the historic and redevelopment guidelines, subdivision and stormwater regulations, and the goals and objections of the general plan. Therefore, it's a judgment call. I would suggest that, is it historic or not? Well, no, it's not historic to put 8 little cottages on a little tiny piece of land without, there's 6 feet between, I believe, between the houses. This is the plan that we saw. There are little squares and bushes, but we don't know the square footage. We don't know any more about the houses, so we really don't feel we could make a good decision about that. So we would like it delayed or deferred, and we need more information. We just don't think it's a good precedent to set in the historic district, that we all have saluted and obeyed all the rules. So if you read the rules say the historic shall prevail. And I really would like a ruling on that from Metro Legal, or maybe ask my council lady if she could do that, because it just doesn't seem that the grandfather clause doesn't prevail in the historic district. 30 years of us believing that. We believed it for all that time. But thank you.
Thank you.
Terry Bear, 323 Forest Park. When I just heard the words that the duplexes in that area don't fit in with the character of that area, I didn't know what to say that would be appropriate, but is it appropriate when we take duplexes and that are in that general mile or two and turn them into, take the advantage of a duplex lot and go from maybe a 1,100 square foot structure and turn each side into a 4,000 square foot structure? I mean, is it that certain duplexes are not, in a developer's opinion, worthy, and the 4,000 square foot one is? I realized it's exciting for those people in development to want to upscale everything there, but I mean, this does not. It seems like there's other things that he's trying to change. There are quite a number of duplexes in that area that are duplexes that people actually live in, and some of them, as I lived in one for about 13 or 14 years, these people have lived there a long time. A lot of those are outstanding citizens of Nashville, musicians, artists, and to put down every house that's a duplex in there that is not, is not a, traditional, I don't know, 2-story house or whatever, porch house, that's kind of ridiculous. I would like, I don't think they need to put in another type of housing, this cottage, circle, whatever it is thing. It does not fit with the neighborhood. I'm tired of people saying, well, it's just, there's something down the street that looks sort of like it. This is just a little bit more ugly or more out of character than that. I'm just really opposed to this, and I don't think you're really hearing from the people that actually live in those neighborhoods. And we've had meetings, I've been to plenty of meetings, and every time the developer goes and says everybody was in favor of it. And I'm telling you, there's quite a few people that are not in favor of those. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi, Pete Horton, 726 Benton Avenue, recent past president association. This is like an oxymoron, cluster housing in a historic neighborhood. Our issue right up front is not anything to do with the developer or the owners. We really look forward to working where'd Roy go? He's been a gentleman and a scholar and everything. So whatever happens, we're going to be very happy to work with him. My problem is with the council for this SP zoning in the first place, and also the Planning Commission and department for fostering loopholes instead of protecting us from loopholes, you know, encouraging people, let's go break the settlement pattern in the historic neighborhood and put some of this cottage business there. The neighborhood voted nothing about the specific development, about the SP zoning in particular. We don't feel that it belongs in the historic or the conservation areas anywhere in Nashville. So, and I just think it's, if they break the nut here, they're going to be after all the other historic areas for crazy stuff. We've played along with all the historic things, but we don't think we should be doing innovative things in here. The issue is with 8 homes on 6 lots. When you do that, it's going to mean 5 of the homes have like a 30-foot square shared of common front lawn. Well, I mean, it's boring the way the historic neighborhoods are set up now. Everything faces the street, and then you got the alley behind. Now we're going to have a circle of things. But what do you do for a front lawn? People are used to going out with their dog or something like that. It's going to be a shared patch of grass. And that just sort of disrupts the whole settlement pattern. The historic neighborhood is more than just the appearance from the streetscape, and that's a loophole. In our neighborhood, they've gone all around the property and made people take clapboard off. They didn't say anything about, oh no, it's only from what you could see from the street. They've controlled the whole thing. But now, on this rush to make everything infill and density, Planning Commission said they approved it because it would promote use of sidewalks. We got that. It promote infill? No, we're already filled in. We got to tear them down before we in. Promote business at the 8th Avenue shops? It would promote affordable housing. It's not going to be affordable housing. We're going to lose affordable housing, and we're going to have more expensive housing. So, and the Planning Commission did not at all address the fact that it's a historic neighborhood.
Thank you. Seeing no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'm going to move this to defer this for 2 meetings.
Have a motion and a second.
With a brief explanation.
Councilmember.
There has been, of course, as Mr. Dale said, there's been some community meetings, but there's still obvious some concerns, and I'm going to host my community meeting about this because there's still some other things going on in that area. So with that, again, I just renew my motion to defer that 2 meetings.
We have a motion and a second for a 2-meeting deferral. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-589 changes 1.89 acres from R6 to SP zoning for properties located at 1505 and 1507 Porter Road and a portion of properties located at 1516 and 1528 C Riverside Drive to permit up to 28 residential dwelling units and up to 6,000 square feet of commercial space. Councilmember Anthony Davis.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to open the public hearing.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, would anyone in support wish to speak? Yes, sir.
I'd just like to say that I'd appreciate all the work the council does on these
Could I have your name and address?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Hollis Inman, 7905 Meadowview Drive.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank the council. I've been to the community meetings on this and the Planning Commission meeting on this and the council here, and I can see that, as Chris said in the beginning, Nashville's changing a lot, and I think that there's some really good work going into the development of these projects, and I'd just like to say I support this one.
Thank you. Seeing no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Anthony Davis.
Move approval with brief comment.
Have a motion and a second. Councilman?
Yes, this was actually the bill that my colleague, Councilman Scott Davis, was speaking on. I just wanted to thank the developer and his team on this, and South Inglewood neighbors for working really hard on it, and the planning staff as well. And I renew my motion to approve. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-590 amends the Metro Zoning Code to prohibit LED message boards and digital display signs within the ORIA zoning district. Councilmember Allen.
Thank you. I'd like to open the public hearing, please.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one on either side, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Allen.
Thank you. I'd like to move for approval with a brief explanation.
We have a motion and a second.
Just like to explain, this is a companion bill to the other one that came before us that dealt with the MUIA and MUI districts. This ORIA was inadvertently left out. There was an amendment made to that bill, and there will be a similar amendment made to this one on third reading when both of those come back. So with that, I would renew my motion for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2013-595, approves Amendment Number 5 to the Phillips Jackson Street Redevelopment Plan. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move to open the public hearing.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, would anyone in support wish to speak? Please line up at the lectern and state your name and address.
Good evening. I'm Sharon Hurt. My address is 6316 Willow Oak Drive, but I live on Jefferson Street. I am president and CEO of the Jefferson Street United Merchants Partnership, a 200-member organization that represents individuals, business owners, corporations, and institutions in the Jefferson Street and North Nashville community. It's an organization that was created with the hope and desire that a project such as this would jumpstart redevelopment of a historic community. Some 20 years ago, this organization began, and 20 years later, we are here with an opportunity of a lifetime, once in a lifetime. Timing is everything, and this is a time that you all can make a dream come true. A new ballpark to that community will bring economic development. It will bring an infusion of people to the North Nashville area and to historic Jefferson Street. A new ballpark stadium will bring an influx of jobs to the local citizenry, both in construction and operations. A new stadium would be the beginning of a rebirth of a lively restaurant and nightlife scene in an area that has been long overlooked by the economic development taking place in our city. You know, Jimi Hendrix and Little Richard were regulars at several popular nightclubs on Jefferson Street. This project would highlight the historical significance of Jefferson Street, which was once a thriving business and entertainment mecca of the African American community until the interstate divided and decimated the residential and economic lifeblood of the community. There is no better way to celebrate the wealth of history here in North Nashville and in the entire community of Nashville than to resurrect a ballpark of the old Sofodale site. This ballpark where the Nashville Elite Giants of Negro League baseball played, including the famous Wild Bill Wright and Sammy Hughes, but also Buck O'Neill and the great Satchel Paige. It is for these reasons that we support this wonderful project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vice Mayor, members of council, and my councilor, Erica Gilmore. My name is Mark Wright, and I reside at 1306 10th Avenue North. I've been a resident there of 13 years, and I'm also the president of Historic Buena Vista Community Association. For me, this has been a personal journey for the past 2 years, being a part of the Capital District and the revitalization of Suffordale. I've talked to my community, to my neighbors about this project in length, and we are for this development. We want the ballpark, and we're for the bill amendment of number 5 to the Philip Jackson Street redevelopment plan that will allow this to happen. This site has sat for years. I've been there 13 years. I've seen it empty for that length of time. And putting the Sound Stadium there, ballpark, would bring great benefit to the community. It would tie in with the historical communities that surround that area: Salem Town, Germantown, Hope Gardens, and historic Buena Vista. There are a couple reasons I want to touch on that why this bill needs to pass to move this development along. The first one is the revitalization of Jefferson Street corridor. Jefferson Street needs a boost of development. Jump, council members, Sharon has done a wonderful job of preserving Jefferson Street. This development is perfect for that location. It promotes additional development for the area. It also finally rids Jefferson Street of that abandoned lot. And for the city, creates an increased tax base. So it's a great benefit all around. For the downtown area, Jefferson Street, the communities behind, it's a win-win. The other thing is the enhancement of the downtown and the surrounding areas for the residents. When I think of this ballpark, I think of this is what downtown is about, being able to walk to your destinations. This ballpark will be great for families. They'll be able to walk from their homes, and just for anyone in general that wants to come to the downtown area. When I moved into the area, being able to walk to everything was a huge benefit to me. I mean, I could walk within 1 mile practically to everything, and this project will only increase my appreciation for living in the downtown area. So members of council, I ask you to consider the request of our neighborhoods, and please pass this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you.
To the Vice Mayor and members of council, my name is Danny Glover, and I reside at 4404 Tennessee Avenue. I am here to speak for a few moments and to voice my support of the Sulphur project. As a community organizer and former Student Government Association president at Tennessee State University, I know and recognize that a project of this caliber and magnitude will benefit not only current and future Tennessee State students, but the entire North Nashville community. With close to 12,000 students divided amongst Tennessee State University, Fisk University, and Meharry Medical College, with close to thousands of citizens who reside within the Jefferson Street corridor, we have the capacity in place to handle all of the economic development that is sure to rise as a result of this project. We have the buying and spending power to sustain future businesses that are sure to make the conscious and well-calculated decision to open their doors up on Jefferson Street or in the North Nashville community. So as my speaking time dwindles down, I submit to you tonight that it is time to make a substantial investment in the North Nashville community. It's time to revitalize a community that's teeming with a rich musical heritage. My friends, it's time to vote to move this Sulphur project forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Frederick Waller. I live at 1276 Cheyenne Boulevard. I have a business on Jefferson at 2008 Uwe Barbecue. And I really would like to see this project take shape, simply because I know that wherever people are, you're going to have good business. And there are a lot of businesses on Jefferson that could really stand the support of people coming in and purchasing things, especially at a food service place. I actually support this wholeheartedly. I'm a new business owner. I've only been in business like 7 months, and I do feel that if this project is approved and up and going, my business will flourish. I'm truly grateful for this opportunity to speak and express myself concerning this project. It will be a great access to our community, just as Nashville, Tennessee has grown and flourished and has been beautified. This will add to the beauty of our city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, members of the council. I'm Debbie Dale Mason. Tonight I'm representing the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce located at 211 Commerce Street, Suite 100. Always glad to be here and be before you. The Chamber of Commerce does support the building of the baseball park and stadium. We know that it is good for the community, it's good for economic development, it's great for Nashville, and it's great for North Nashville. It's a transformative project that we think will just add another great community asset to the many that we already have. So I'm going to keep it short. You've heard some great statements already, but just thank you, and we appreciate your positive consideration of this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor, members of the council, my name is Gregory Ramos. I'm a Nashville attorney. In fact, I practice just a few blocks from here at 414 Union Street in the Bank of America Plaza. I too come here to speak in favor of the ballpark, but I wanted to take a little bit different tact. I'd also like to address the council in terms of the quality of life issue, which I think is one of those unquantifiable type of metrics. You know, we have great entertainment in Nashville. And I love the Titans and I love the Predators, but what is missing for a poor kid like me when I was growing up is affordable, quality family entertainment that's located here near the downtown area. I developed such a special relationship with my family, and especially with my dad, as a result of going to many, many minor league games. Baseball can be taken at different levels. You can talk about the strategy, what's going to happen next, but baseball also passes at the time of life, so you can just discuss life out there and the family relationships that I developed, and I think we should have advantage of here in Nashville. I think would be such a boost to the quality of life, the quality of great life that we already have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Brad Tamman, representing the Sounds, the general manager of the Nashville Sounds, located at 534 Chestnut. I feel blessed to be entering my 25th year here in baseball in this great game we call our national pastime. I moved my family here 4 years ago to take this great opportunity. I can honestly say that I love Nashville more than any other town I've lived in. And I can tell you my family is ecstatic to live here, and they don't want to go anywhere else. I've been all over this region in the Middle Tennessee talking about baseball to civic organizations, businesses, and I've watched hundreds of baseball games and softball games throughout this community. And I have to say, everywhere I go, the daily topic of conversation that I have is about the big question: when are you guys going to get a new ballpark? That's daily in my life. This is a baseball community with very enthusiastic and knowledgeable fans. Nashville is a world-class city that deserves a world-class ballpark. As part of my previous stops in baseball, I was part of an really exciting transition from a 36-year-old ballpark that moved into a state-of-the-art downtown ballpark in Oklahoma City. I've seen a firsthand witness of the success of a new ballpark in a downtown setting, and I am confident that our ownership and our staff will take great pride in showcasing a new era of Sounds baseball in Nashville, in Sulphur Dell. And again, I'd like to reiterate, Nashville is a world-class city, and I feel that we deserve a world-class ballpark. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
My name is Jeff Hem, 245 Indian Lake Boulevard. I've been the Nashville Sounds radio broadcaster for 2, coming up on 3 seasons, and this will be my 11th season overall in minor league baseball. As a radio announcer for a club, you go on the road with the team. So I've been to several ballparks in several cities across many states, and with the Sounds, I announce 72 games every season in someone else's ballpark. Among those locations are some of the nicest, most popular and well-attended ballparks in minor league baseball: Round Rock, Texas, Sacramento, Albuquerque, and down in Memphis. Having traveled so often to other venues in the industry and seeing what doors are opened by new facilities and how fans respond to those facilities, there's not a single doubt in my mind that the Nashville Sounds need a new stadium, and more importantly, would flourish in a new stadium. And if you don't want to take it from me, take it from others around our league. Everywhere I travel, the topic of a Sound stadium comes up, whether it's other teams' players, broadcasters, executives. There have been numerous conversations over the past few years, and they always end the same way. Those people say if you combine the booming city of Nashville with a new Sound stadium, you'll have one of, if not the most successful franchises in all of minor league baseball. The Sounds play AAA baseball and are one of only 2 of the 30 AAA teams that also have both an NFL and NHL team in their city. This is a great sports town and a tremendous market. I believe it's time for the Sounds to have a ballpark that reflects that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Robert Brown, and I thank you for this opportunity. I'm here representing Centerplate, who is fortunate enough to be the hospitality partner for the Nashville Sounds, the Titans, as well as the beautiful Music City Center down the street. But more importantly tonight, I'm here as a baseball guy and a father. I'm fortunate enough to work with 4 minor league baseball teams and 2 college teams, as well as my son is a senior here in Hendersonville, and he plays travel baseball. So I got the opportunity to probably watch somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 baseball games last year. And I can tell you there's nothing quite like seeing the smile on a children's face and the family together, especially at a minor league baseball park, where it doesn't really matter if the team wins or loses. It's really about being there and having the opportunity to create those family memories for yourself. Nashville is a world-class city, much like Brad said, and I've seen firsthand the transformation in some other cities when a new ballpark has come in, most notably in Durham, North Carolina, where an area that was really no one came in the heart of the city has really now become the center of the city, and really an area where everybody gathers, and you get the opportunity to create those memories with your family. I'm very much in favor of the new ballpark and look forward to your consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Pamela Bates. I live at 501 Unit C, Dr. D.B. Top Jr. Boulevard. I support this project because I need the opportunity to work. I need the opportunity to work. I am so nervous. Okay. I need this opportunity to continue to keep a change in my life. I am so nervous. But anyway, I need this opportunity to save my life. You know, I need a job. A job. I'm gonna talk on the reason why I think I'm up here is to give y'all a little insight on why I support this project, because I'm not gonna use my age. But anyway, I'm so nervous. I need this job to be supportive, to keep my boundaries, to keep discipline and structure in my life. I just need the opportunity to make Nashville with this change. As I see it get bigger and bigger, I just want a part of that opportunity. I work construction. And I've been with temp service for 3 years. And with me, at a temp service, it's bad. It's just bad for me because I'm not given the opportunity to live my livelihood. I'm scuffling. I'm out here scuffling today. I'm scuffling. But I made an effort to come here to try to get this point across why I support this. And I need this opportunity to work because I have bills. I don't live at the Mission. I don't sell papers. I work in construction. And I do detail cleaning. And with going through the temp service for 2 years, my God. And I'm gonna say it's just bad by me being a woman, and I have to go through temp service because I'm being put on the back burner. And I can outwork 5 men, but I still can I'll be put on that back burner. My money's not growing. My money just won't grow. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Honorable Vice Mayor, members of the council, thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. My name is Jay Everett. I live at 928 Ireland Street. I'm a member of the Hope Gardens Neighborhood Association. I also work in Germantown. I spend almost my entire day, every day in this part of town. I walked to the farmer's market for lunch today. I rode the B-cycle here. I love my neighborhood. I love the idea that one day I'll be able to walk to ball games. And I'm here tonight to communicate on behalf of the Neighborhood Association. Davina Krager, our president, cannot be here, but she asked me to say to you that the overwhelming majority of the members of our neighborhood that she's spoken with, who've attended the meetings, think this is a good plan and think that the ballpark will be a very good thing for our area town moving forward. So thank you very much. Please support it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Ethan Link. I live at 1004 Mansfield. I just wanted to, I'm here representing the Laborers International Union, and I just wanted to thank the folks that have been taking the lead to make this thing happen, Councilman Maynard and Councilwoman Gilmore, also the folks at Jump who've done an incredible job making this, something that's on the front burner for Nashville and finally coming to a dream being a reality. I just wanted to say that the folks who were able to come here tonight, who are folks who are looking for construction work, are depending on this project, depending on it coming through, depending on y'all supporting it, and having an opportunity to be part of building Nashville. There's so much that can be done, having a living wage job, access to training, access to a career ladder that can be accomplished on this project. And by passing this tonight, we're one step closer to making that a reality for so many folks who are struggling, either in unemployment or being underemployed. So that's all I have to say. I really appreciate y'all's time, and please vote for this bill.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Clayton Thompson. My address 4210 Otic Boulevard. I'm supporting Building Nashville. I'm not working. I got skills. I've been through the trainings. The ballpark will help out a whole lot. Guys like me, it's got skills to go to work. That's all I can say.
Thank you.
My name is Mark Oswald. I live at 4325 Estes Road and have a business called Fontanelle at 4225 Whites Creek Pike. I'm here to wholeheartedly support this endeavor. I think that Nashville, not only do we need baseball, and not only do we need entertainment and business and everything that these people have said in their jobs, but we need to do it in an area that we need to support to build Nashville as a community. And we want to spread the wealth. We should put our money where our mouth is. We should step up. We should approve this thing and build that area, give the Jefferson Street team a reason to rally. And we support it from everybody I know. Not because we live there or have a business there, but because it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, members of the Metro Council. My name is Skip Nipper, and although I live in Mount Juliet, I'm a Nashville Sounds season ticket holder, and I currently serve as Secretary of the Old Timers Baseball Association of Nashville. We're a 501c3 organization, nonprofit that promotes and financially supports the great game of baseball in the area. 2 months ago, the Old Timers unanimously voted to support the Sulphurdale project, and we sent a letter to that effect to Mayor Carl Dean and Brad Tamman, General Manager of the Nashville Sounds. My love for the history of Sulphurdale and Nashville baseball stretches from my youth when my dad took me to games at the old ballpark to the present. In 2002, I began sulphurdale.com, and in 2007, my book, Baseball in Nashville, was published. Part of my research includes finding this, and I quote, "What the effect of these improvements in the Sulphur Spring bottom, which has so long been a public eyesore, can well be imagined. There is little doubt that the Spring House grounds and baseball park will become the most popular summer resort in the city if the plans and specifications are carried out." These words were written in the Nashville newspaper, but not in 2013 and not even in 2007, not even in this past century. These words were published in the Nashville Daily American under the heading, "The New Baseball Park, Important Improvements in the Sulphur Spring Bottom." They were published on December the 12th, 1884. On March the 25th of the next year, the fence was up and the ground was leveled for the first scheduled exhibition game with Indianapolis on March the 30th. And Nashville's first opening day took place on May the 4th, 1885. From that time forward, Nashville's opening day has been the keystone for each baseball season. It often received great community attention as that special day has been heralded by newspaper and media prominence, parades, and the ceremonial tossing out of the first ball by mayors, governors, and even a vice president. In between that great event and the last game of the season, families have had a slice of life that is more than a ball game. We can take our worries to the ballpark and leave them there. At the ballpark, no one really cares who's a Democrat or Republican. And between pitches, we can talk about God, our family, and our job. But let's get a few things straight. The old Sulphurdale right field wall is gone forever. It'll never again be possible, as organized baseball would never allow it. The contour of the ballpark is gone forever because everything is now played on a level ball field. There'll be no stockyard, no smells from the nearby city dump to mingle with the freshly cooked hot dogs. But what will be is a ballpark where memories cherished by fans can be remembered and new ones reborn at the spot that was Nashville's former baseball home for over 100 years. This is where the professional... Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Linda Jones, and I live at 4921 Aviemore Drive. I own a business located at 343 Harrison Street, which is exactly 1/2 block from the proposed development in Jackson area. Harrison Square condominium owners and area business owners support this. As an attorney, I represent hundreds of clients who would benefit, just like the gentleman and the lady who spoke tonight about having work and having a job. You will provide much needed jobs. In addition to just the construction jobs, we're going to have a lot of small business owners that are going to flow in. If you've been to Chicago and seen Wrigleyville and seen all the area growth around those businesses, you know that a new community is going to sprout up. And there's going to be growth in a new community, Germantown, Salemtown, and Jefferson Street area, where there have been some cuts and some deep wounds, and this is going to heal it and create yet another new community in Nashville. Nashville has been growing and changing for the better. We're growing rapidly. We deserve a new ballpark, and it's going to be nothing but good economic development and sales tax revenue for this city and jobs for the people who work and who I've represented in our court system for years, who, you know, they're good, hard-working, middle-class people. So I hope you'll support this. I also represent some of the families that attend public schools. I know our families will be down here at these ball games if we have this new park. Thanks.
Thank you.
My name is Bart Leathers. I live at 4200 Leland Lane, which is quite a distance from the area. On the other hand, I work in the Metro Center area, and in the past worked off Taylor Street and was a member of JUMP. We have a little bit different perspective. My family, as does Mr. Nipper's family, goes back to the North Nashville in days when Buena Vista was Buena Vista. And that's how I still remember it. Our fathers both were raised in that area. We have a unique opportunity here in Nashville right now, right in front of you. While there may be some concerns about financing, which I acknowledge, there are no real issues, no real reasons not to do this. It is a boon beyond words to the North Nashville area, to the Germantown area, and the other areas, other small subdivisions and little communities that have been there forever, such as Hope Gardens and Salem Town and Buena Vista. We believe that this is a perfect opportunity. I'm also a member of the Old Timers Association with Mr. Nipper. We'll find a place to take our sons and our grandchildren to baseball games. There's no doubt. But give us the opportunity to go to a beautiful park, a new park, a park that's not 36 years old, that has been held together very well by its current ownership. Give us the opportunity to push the economy in the area forward and have a nice ballpark befitting of a community of Nashville's magnitude. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor and council members, my name is Frank Ward, 534 Chestnut Street in Nashville. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody who came up and spoke on the Nashville Sound's behalf. I'd like to thank Mayor Dean for this opportunity. I would like to thank the council just for the process, and I'd like to thank any council member who feels they could support us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
I'm sorry, I did not see anyone raise their hands earlier when I asked to raise your hand if you were against. Sorry, Councilmember Gilmore. Please line up at the lectern.
Good evening. My name is Bruce McNeilage, 2714 Jefferson Street. Some of you might look at me and say, you don't look like you're from Jefferson Street. I have $800,000 invested on the corner in the Jefferson Manor Apartments, and I also own some other apartments throughout Nashville. I love baseball. I played baseball at a higher level. My father worked for the former owner of the New York Mets for 19 3/4 years. I am pro-baseball. I'm not pro-baseball if we have to use public money, and that's what I'm concerned about. We are Music City, USA. You hear it when you get off the airplane. Folks like Butch and Ralph have branded us Music City, USA. But we don't have an outdoor music venue. Atlanta has Chastain. My hometown, Detroit, has Pine Knob. You've heard about the Coachella Festival out west. You go to the east and you go to these festivals, Newport or New Orleans. We are Music City, USA, but we don't have an outdoor venue. In the business, they call it a shed. Do we want to be Music City, USA, or do we want to be Minor League City, USA? I realize in 2 minutes and 13 seconds I'll be the most unpopular person in the room, but my concern is, do we have a cohesive plan for Greer Stadium? What are we going to do with Greer? Have you all talked about what we're going to do with that facility? It doesn't make sense to buy a new house until you have a plan to sell or dispose of your old house. So have you talked about what you're going to do with that? What is a baseball stadium worth with no tenant? And when I say that, you know, this team's a wonderful team. I enjoy taking my kids to the games, but I think they have a 1 or 2 years left on their affiliation contract with the Brewers. What is a stadium worth if you lose that affiliation? Ask Evansville, Indiana, or ask Toledo when they got an affiliation of the Detroit Tigers. Imagine building a stadium, but they lose their affiliation. Do you guys have a plan B on how you pay back 30 years of bonds if they lose the affiliation? Let's talk about that. Ted Turner's a smart guy. They built a stadium in Atlanta just south of downtown on the edge with a beautiful view of the city. 1996 Olympics. They used it for 17 years. They just announced last week that they're going to bulldoze it. In 17 years, no condos were ever built, no apartments were ever built, no retail was ever built, there wasn't a Starbucks built. Ted Turner, with all his money, and the Atlanta Olympic Committee said, if you let us float these bonds, we promise this will redevelop the area. Folks, they're bulldozing it after 17 years. How do you pay back 30 years of bonds if the stadium only lasts for 7 years? You go to Rome, Georgia, Gwinnett County, Georgia, and Jackson, Mississippi. The Rome Braves, the Gwinnett Braves, the Mississippi Braves play there. Every single stadium in those towns has no retail around it, they have no condos, and they have no apartments. Do you know what I could do with $65 million? I could build 1,200 apartments to house homeless people or disadvantaged people or minorities or working class people. Is this about corporate welfare and helping two business people, or is it about helping the community with our tax dollars?
Thank you.
Please think about these things.
I'm Terry Bear at 323 Forest Park, and my objections to this is it's being rushed, and it sounds to me like there was a lot of candy passed out here. I don't know the best way to say it, but a lot of people, I heard there's a lot of people that were there that had valid concerns and valid needs. I don't know how it got associated with this particular bill and how they couldn't have had those problems addressed in a way that targeted the things that they actually want and were actually are trying to be promised in this issuance. I mean, the whole thing is, couldn't even, when I was looking at this, figure out, I knew there was supposed to be some sort of public hearing on the new ball field, but it was disguised in this Phillips-Jackson Plan Amendment 5. Would the average person know that that was the bill about, that would be the public hearing on objecting to the ball field if they had concerns about it? I just don't understand all of the meetings that go on holidays, how this is being rushed through in December. And I have a lot of things that he said I have concerns about also. Is I know a little bit about baseball and how a minor league team is part of, it has a relationship with a major league team and how those different ownerships go together. And, I'm not seeing how that's being addressed in any of the things I've seen. I'm not totally sure that this is a bad move. I do object to some of the swapping of land that was public land that is going into this. That is a great concern to me. I just wish that all these things, let's put out a schedule of meetings that is not during the holidays, where valid concerns can be put out, that we separate out people's concerns, that they don't have to go for this ball field proposal with condos attached to it or apartments or whatever it is, to have their needs of getting jobs and having Jefferson Street and other streets put together, which may or may not be living in after this project goes through, because that's not been the case in other neighborhoods. When things have gone through, other people have been displaced. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jeremy H.G. Hayes, 133 Noah Coke in Hermitage, Tennessee. I echo Bruce. In a few minutes, I may be one of the more unpopular people in here. I am an advocate of the new sound stadium. I'm an advocate for the proposed site for the sound stadium. What I oppose is the potential of having $65 million placed on the taxpayers. As a business owner in Nashville, the president of a company, if I were to walk down the street after I invest in a project and I lost money and I demanded that people walking down the street were to give me their money to pay back my bad investment, I'd be arrested for robbery. I'm not going to take up the entire 3 minutes. I just think that we need to slow down. We're rushing through this process. We need to look at everything. As I had the opportunity to earn 2 master's degrees, one of which was an MBA. So I look at all of the numbers placed in front of me. We haven't even looked at the traffic study yet. Why are we rushing this through? And again, I've been to Nashville Sounds Stadium or Nashville Sounds games. I really appreciate the kind words that came from the Sounds employees. Because we are, as a Nashville, Tennessee born and raised resident, we are one of the greatest communities, I believe. But nowhere should we place on tax burdens the burden of paying back $65 million. As Bruce mentioned earlier, there's other projects that money could go to helping other people. Right now, our country is in one of the worst positions it's been in since the Great Depression, financially. But yet we're willing to burden our taxpayers on a baseball team. I'm a sports fanatic. My company did an NFL youth camp this past year. I love sports. But again, I'm not going up to you or any of you and saying, pay for this. I'm not saying, this is my company, I'm doing this on my own, you need to pay me for it. You know, both Kennedy and Reagan, and I'm paraphrasing both, when President Kennedy talked about every tax dollar saved creates a new job and a new salary, that's true. And then whenever Reagan said the current tax code is a daily mugging, that's also true. If we pass a bill placing $65 million on a tax that's a common taxpayer right now, with everything else that they have to worry about, feeding their family, paying the electric bill, paying rent, we need to take these things in consideration. And yes, it would create jobs. I believe it would create jobs. I believe that there are many people out there, I believe it would be a true blessing to the people of Middle Tennessee. But again, it's not your responsibility. It's not your responsibility to pay for my company if I invest in or if I have bad investments. This is a private company, the baseball team, a private business. This should be on their dollar. I did use my 3 minutes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Seeing no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I move for approval with a brief explanation.
Need to get a couple of committee reports first.
Sure.
Councilmember Stein.
Budget and Finance approved 8-4, 1 against.
Councilmember Langster.
Thank you. Federal Grants Review Committee passed 6-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Hunt.
Thank you. Planning, Zoning, and Historic Commission approved 7-4, 3 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Just wanted to share a couple brief comments. I move approval for this because once again it extends the time on the terms on the Phillips Jackson Street redevelopment from 2030, I think, to 2045. It extends it from 11 million to 50 million. It's a part of the redevelopment district, and so this district already exists. So we just would like for the Sounds, if it is approved, to be able to take advantage of this. So thank you very much, and I renew my motion to approve.
Okay, we're going to have a machine vote. Madam Clerk, please close the machine and tally the vote.
Ayes 32, noes 2, abstain 1.
The motion passes. We're now at items on our consent agenda, and as we always do, I will read the ones that are on the consent agenda, and then you can let me know if any need to be pulled. Currently, the one that is not on the consent agenda is RS 2013-920. RS 2013-903 exempts Frothy Monkey, located at 2509 12th Avenue South, from the minimum distance requirements to obtain a beer permit. 921 approves an amendment to a lease agreement between Metro Government and the Square Investment Holding LP for office space in Washington Square Building, located at 222 2nd Avenue North. 922 approves an amendment to a grant from the State Department of Correction to the State Trial Courts to fund the Davidson County Corrections Program. 223 approves an amendment to a grant from the State Department to Human Services to the Davidson County Juvenile Court to enforce federal and state mandated child support program guidelines. 324 approves a grant from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services to Metro Board of Health to address issues and barriers to responsible fatherhood. That's under consent, right? Okay. 925 authorizes the Department of Law to settle the personal injury claim of Anita Ransom against the Metro Government in the amount of $10,000. 927 recognizes Shirley Blackburn for her 40 years of outstanding service to Metro Government, and 928 recognizes Kathleen Callahan for her 35 years of outstanding service to Metro Government. Do any of these need to be pulled? Okay. Okay, seeing none, I need committee reports from Councilmember Stein.
On 921, 922, 923, 924, and 925, the Budget Finance Committee unanimously approved.
Thank you. Councilmember Bedney, do you have the one for health and hospitals?
Yes, ma'am. 340 against.
For which?
For 924.
Thank you.
I apologize.
Councilmember Hunt.
Planning, Zoning, and Historic Committee approved Resolution 921, 12-4, against.
Thank you. Councilmember Purdue.
Public Safety approved 592-4-0.
Thank you.
Thanks for recognizing me.
Councilmember Berry.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Rules and Confirmations approved Resolutions 927 and 928, 6-4-0 against. With that, I move approval of the consent agenda.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Okay, we're now going back to RS 2013-920, amends the capital improvements budget and program 2013-2014 through 2018-2019 pertaining to the minor league stadium project. Councilmember Stein.
Committee reports.
Councilmember Hunt.
Planning, Zoning, and Historic Commission approved 9-4-0 against.
Councilmember Stein.
Budget and Finance approved 7-4, 2 against, and 1 not voting, and I move approval with a comment.
We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Stein.
Thank you. Just as a point of reference to make sure folks absolutely understand exactly what this amendment does, this project is currently in the capital improvement budget at $55 million. This amendment raises that figure from $55 million to $65 million. It does one other thing that actually should be supported by those that are for this project and those that are against this project, because it changes the funding in the capital improvement budget from the use of GO bonds to the use of revenue bonds. And that is simply what this does. Now, obviously, because of the timing of this, it puts it on in the calendar after our budget process is over, so it does indeed require 27 affirmative votes. But I would argue that for or against this project, that putting this on our wish list so that we can discuss the merits of this on the 2 bills to come should be everybody's should be supported by everyone, and I renew my motion to approve.
Councilmember Hunt.
Madam President, I need to correct my tally on 920. The correct number was 6-4-0 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Tiger.
Procedural question, Vice Mayor. I would like to vote for this bill, but until the amendment is considered on a previous bill, I would have to be a no vote or an abstention. Is there a way to hold off the vote on this till we address the other bill?
We need to do this one first.
Well, like I said, I would like to be a yes, but I cannot in good conscience until the other part of the bill is discussed first.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we're going to have a machine vote. Madam Clerk, please close the machine and tally the vote.
Yes, excuse me, yes 30, no 2, abstain 4.
30 in favor, 2 against, 4 abstentions, and 4 absent. Thank you. Without objection, we're going to move, we can go ahead and take BL 2013-593 and 594 out of order. Seeing no objection, BL 2013-593 approves the issuance of revenue bonds not to exceed a principal amount of $65 million, authorizes the execution and delivery of a trust indenture, approves an intergovernmental agreement relating to said bonds and development of the ballpark, pledges revenues as security for the bonds, and authorizes an official statement to be distributed in connection with the sale of the bonds. Councilmember Stein.
Committee reports.
Councilmember Tenpenny.
Thank you. Committee reports. Convention and Tourism voted 5-4, 3 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Stein.
The Budget and Finance Committee approved 8-4, 1 against, and 1 not voting. We also considered a proposed amendment. Do you want that committee report now or when we consider the amendment?
When we consider the amendment.
I would move approval. I actually want to comment on this, but if we're going to take the amendment first, I'll reserve my comments until after that.
Okay, well, we have a motion, and Councilmember Tiger.
Thank you. I would move the amendment.
Okay, Councilmember Stein, committee report on the amendment.
Budget and Finance disapproved. 3 voted in favor and 7 against.
Councilmember Tenpenny.
Convention and Tourism has voted 5-4, 4 against on the amendment.
Thank you. Councilmember Tiger.
Thank you. Before I make a brief explanation, I wanted to say hello to my good friend John Gromos back there, the color analyst for the Vanderbilt Commodores, and I'd like for him to get a tape of his last game called, or the game before last, to get to Councilman Garrett. I'm sure he'd like to hear the Vanderbilt call versus Tennessee again. At the risk of repeating myself from yesterday, I want folks to understand that I love my mama. I enjoy baseball, and you can look at my physique and know that I like apple pie. The administration brought forward a reasonable bill for a mechanism to provide Nashville with a new minor league baseball park. And as I read the funding mechanism and all the ins and outs, everything was going along great. I felt very comfortable until one of those statements there that a $750,000 allocation on TIF financing based on a project that was not legally obligated to be built. So I guess I was the most naive person, because I believe the Sounds have every intention to build that associated complex. But I also understand that things happen that keep things from getting built. It was less than 6 months ago, we had a project up here asking for tax incentives that had HCA and the Saracana Cancer Center as the lead anchor tenants, and a project that probably will not get built. I appreciate everyone that spoke, and I hope they understand that that there's no one here in this room that I don't think enjoys baseball, appreciates all the efforts of the Nashville Sounds. But quite frankly, I have a fiduciary responsibility to be a good steward to the taxpayers. And when there's a loophole or there's an issue that may provide or may require the taxpayers to be on the hook for an additional $750,000, I thought this amendment that simply said if by chance, for whatever reason, the project doesn't get built, then the Sounds would pay the difference there until that project gets built. This is not a move to kill the bill. I desperately want to vote for this bill. That's the one hurdle that I read the analysis that John did such a thorough job on, that seemed to me to be the biggest stumbling block that protected the taxpayers in the long run. I went to a reception at Coach Tim Corbin's house about 6 weeks ago, and I bought a gift item that was donated by Brad and Frank from the Nashville Sounds. It was a suite, catered suite at a game this year for 10 people that I plan on giving to my grandson's Little League team to use. We love baseball. So I keep emphasizing that there's no one here that has supported bigger ticket items and not been afraid to speak up and say Nashville needs a Music City Convention Center at $580 million. Sitting back where Councilman Mitchell's sitting now in 1995, I made an impassioned plea that the Bridgestone Arena or the Nashville Arena at that point, was a good investment for taxpayers to pay. We knew exactly what we were getting into. We knew what the funding mechanisms were. But we now have a loophole here that just simply needs to be filled. I appreciate Mr. Ward's letter to us today and trying to close some of the gaps, but it almost makes me worry a little bit that if they don't build the development, I would agree to sell the property to a private party. That almost acknowledges that there's a possibility that this project, the $50–60 million project.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
Councilmember Stein.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I rise in opposition to this amendment. I think very clearly, if any of us were in the position of the Sounds, one would think twice about this particular effort. Renegotiating this deal at this point, if I were them, I would think long and hard about whether I want to participate, excuse me. Under the guise of protecting us, this amendment comes forward, but I wonder what we're being protected from. Those of us with a history longer than this term or two have had to decide whether or not to trust a variety of entities in a variety of economic development deals. Most of the time, we're asked to trust non-residents or folks we simply don't know when we're involved in some of these. Most have proven trustworthy. Some of us in the 1990s suffered through, for example, with Mayor Bredesen and that council, the American Airlines disaster when it proved to be untrustworthy. But by and large, most folks are trustworthy. But in this instance, we have partners that are a known entity. And no matter how you sugarcoat it, in this instance, this amendment says, Mr. Ward, your Sounds organization and MFP, we don't trust you. This is grossly unfair to an organization that has, over the last 5 years, become a vital, caring part of this community. In our economic development work, we are always concerned about not just doing things for folks from out of town. We want to do things for folks that live in this community, that have entities in this community and that exist in this community, and this Sounds ownership over the last 5 years have become part of this community. They have consistently done all we've asked at Greer Stadium. They altered their business plan to accommodate the building of the stadium at Sulphur Dell and not the riverfront. They provided over $200,000 in flood relief aid in 2010. Ironically, over $70,000 of those dollars went to Bellevue, but they also aided Shelby Park, West Park, Nashville RBI, and other Middle Tennessee communities. Over the last 2 years, they've given over $300,000 to community organizations throughout our community. In short, the current Sounds ownership management employees are us. They are our partners. They're investing in our city. They're helping to build a better community. They deserve our benefit of the doubt. It's a benefit of the doubt that we have given consistently in every one of these instances, and this kind of amendment is unprecedented in one of our pieces of legislation. They deserve our trust. What this amendment is really an unsubstantiated, unwarranted slap at their integrity. If this seems harsh, just imagine if you were them and this council was contemplating such an unprecedented punitive regulation. I urge each member to vote no to this amendment.
Councilmember Holloman, do you want to speak on the amendment?
I do, yes, Vice Mayor.
Okay.
Members of the council, I voted yesterday in favor of the amendment, and today I understand the compromise that's been offered since that original vote yesterday. And this is where I do disagree with Councilman Tigert a little bit as to whether or not this compromise is effective. I think that it is, or at least can be. As I understand it, what's been proposed in this amendment is a $750,000 annual penalty for every year that doesn't go forward with development. As I understand what's being offered now that still has to be hammered out is the idea that if the Sounds don't move forward with the development, development, then they would be divested of the property. I think where I disagree with Councilman Tigard is that I'm not concerned that this property is not developable. I think we're seeing a rapid increase in the rate of development in this area, and I think we're going to continue to see that. I do think there could be some incentive to hold this property to maximize values, and that might be a reason that the development wouldn't go forward. I don't think not that it's financeable or a project that wouldn't make sense, but that it could be held. And with the deal, as I understand it, that's now being proposed in response to the conversations that we had yesterday, the Sounds would be obligated to divest themselves of the property if they did not move forward with the development. So with that in mind, I'm going to vote against the amendment tonight. Now, I will say this to the Sounds, to MDHA, and to the Sports Authority. I do think we need to be sure, we don't have the details of what that compromise looks like. I do think we have to be sure that built into that is that it's a real arm's length deal, and that it would be a market rate price if it were to be divested. Obviously not that it would just be a shuffling of papers. So with that, I'm going to vote no, and I thank the Sounds for coming back to us and trying to find something to address the concern that I think many of us in this room have, which is that the revenue source that's been tied to this development is property tax revenues that come off of the development of that site. So we do need to be sure that that site develops. And for me, I think that this is a reasonable way to approach that, and therefore tonight I will not vote for the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Claiborne, do you wish to speak on the amendment or the bill?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I want to thank all the folks who came and spoke tonight, and I agree with everything that was said. All of the economic development, the positive effect in the area of Jefferson Street, the possibility of jobs, all of that. I get that, and I want to support that. But on the other side, I have concerns over the financing proposal that has been brought forward. I equate what we have been presented with a financing proposal as a three-legged stool. I need this amendment as that fourth leg in order to give me the confidence to vote for this and go forward, and to go to the folks in my community and to be able to defend my vote for it. Without the amendment, I can't do that. We are being presented with a proposal that will cost us $1.8 million each year in terms of dealing with this bond proposal. That's $495,000 of redirected money from a lease on state property. That's $250,000 of redirected money from that we're currently going to Greer Stadium that will go to this new site. And that's $345,000 of new money. And it is $750,000 of projected tax, property tax from this proposed development. With the proposed development, we are on the hook for just over $1 million. Without that $750,000, we're on the hook for almost $2 million. This amendment simply says that we are going to get that $750,000 that we have been promised and are expecting. In Mr. Ward's letter that he gave to us, he indicated that there was an exception to what they would be proposing if they were not able to develop because of permitting or court order stays that might delay that process. We're looking at a piece of property that hadn't been purchased yet. We're looking at a piece of property where archaeological studies have not been completed, where environmental studies have not been completed. In his letter, he says we're rushing to do that, but it hadn't been completed. So there are any number of possibilities that could cause this to stall. This is not a matter of trust or distrust. This is a matter of trying to take a step to deal with unexpected consequences or unexpected events that might take place in the near future that would cause this development to suffer the same fate that the Twin Towers on West End suffered. It would go down in smoke.
and we would be on the hook. So this amendment provides for me the fourth leg of that stool that makes this financing arrangement stable. Without it, I can't vote for this proposal. With this amendment, I can vote for it and support it wholeheartedly.
Councilman Domine, do you wish to speak on the bill or the amendment? Okay.
Ms. Cooper, can you please explain whether or not this amendment impacts this proposed ballpark if it is built as proposed?
No, the $750,000 per year liquidated damages provision would only kick in if the mixed-use development next to the ballpark was not built.
So if what we have been told will happen occurs, this amendment does absolutely nothing. Is that correct?
The amendment would not have any effect if what is proposed is built. That's correct.
It has no effect. So if we have what we promised, this doesn't hurt anybody. If we don't have what is promised, this does protect the taxpayers. We have a direct fiduciary responsibility to protect the taxpayers. And I support the amendment. And I'll just show you a little bit. I would love to be a champion for the ball field. My son, having been to a ball game at just about 2 years old, spent the next 2 or 3 years, every other word was ball, ball, ball. He wanted to play catch. He would squat like a catcher, or he'd stand up and have me squat like the catcher, and he'd be the pitcher. I would love to champion this. The challenge is it does not protect the taxpayers as it is currently proposed. We have promises, and I trust folks, but trust but verify. And this doesn't injure anybody if the promises are kept. If they're not, it protects. And we have a direct responsibility to do so. And I yield the rest of my time to Councilman Taggart.
Thank you, Councilman Domine. Just one quick point. There was a couple of statements that bothered me. First of all, 2 weeks ago, I think there were some inappropriate comments that should never happen on the floor of this body. I hope I didn't contribute anything to that. Secondly, there was a statement that this amendment penalizes the sounds. If I was trying to penalize the sounds, I would have asked John to make the amendment greater than $750,000 to put in a punitive effect. All I was trying to do was amount equal to what the TIF financing would produce, and that seemed to be just a reasonable protection for taxpayers that should not have caused such an uproar. Thank you.
Councilmember Todd, do you wish to speak on the amendment?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I rise tonight in support of Councilman Taggart's amendment. I think it's eminently reasonable to ask them to put in writing to do what they say they're going to do. I've practiced law in this town for 30 years, and I've seen business cycles where things were go, 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 and I've seen business cycles where things are a bust. And no one saw the mortgage meltdown coming in 2008, but everything shut down in this town from 2008, 2009, 2010. And how do we know that's not going to happen again? And I hear Councilman Stein's comments, and I appreciate them, and I respect him. But again, some of it strikes me as a little bit naive to say that we can just trust these folks. We don't need to put another provision in the contract. Contracts are negotiated all the time. If we haven't seen the contracts, but I guarantee you the indenture here is 100 pages long. The other contracts are hundreds of pages long. They're full of promises. I don't see the big deal in adding one more promise. If they say they're going to do this, why not just put it in writing? We're here tonight to protect the taxpayers. This is not your money. This is not our money. This is the taxpayers' money. And they say they're going to do it. Just have them put it in writing. I think this resolution is eminently reasonable. It protects the taxpayers. I also heard tonight that there's no precedent for something like this. Well, the Richmond Squirrels, for example, minor league team, they have a lease that is a stated rent of $1.4 million. If certain things happen, the rent goes down. That's what Councilman Taggart wanted to do, but he couldn't put that provision in. It was too late. this is not punitive. Basically, all this amendment does is kind of up the rent to where it should be, what we're counting on to service the debt. And if the things happen, the rent would go down to what is, the $700,000. So this is very fair. This was kind of awkward tonight, the way we had to vote. I'm already have voted in favor. I had a lot of issues, some of the things Councilman Claiborne mentioned, we're rushing through this, but we heard everybody speak in favor. This is a great project. We all want Nashville to be successful. And I want to be behind this. But again, it's not our money. We got to protect the taxpayers. This makes complete sense. And I urge you all to think about your constituents and support Councilman Tygart on this. Thank you.
Councilmember Boehner, do you wish to speak on the amendment?
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Mayor. First of all, I want to state that I'm so proud of the citizens that came out today to voice their opinion regarding this development. I won't speak about it. I think they did a great job. Let me talk about, though, the facts, and the facts are these, is that anytime you have a contract that's negotiated and then you add at the final hour liquidated damages to the tune of $750,000 a year, you materially, significantly, substantially change the contract. Whether the sponsor knows it or not, by offering this amendment, if it passes, it will kill this deal. I am not speaking to you in hyperbole. I'm not speaking to you in hypothetics. I'm telling you the facts. So everyone that stood up before me and said how much they love baseball, and how much they love North Nashville, and how much they love all the economic development, but I'm going to vote for this amendment, you'll be voting to kill this bill. So for all those people who are saying, I support the development, I support the jobs, I support baseball, but you vote for this amendment, you are killing this deal. And let's talk about why. Because at the very least, if you vote yes on this amendment and it passes, at the very least, the Sounds will go back and renegotiate this contract, which will take time and days, which means we will miss the deadline for the end of the year, which will then affect and impact adversely our other real estate investment partner that's ready to go right now. That will kill the deal. It's in the language of the contracts. I'm not making this up. The worst case scenario is that the Sounds, as my colleague Councilman Stein stated, looks at what happened on the floor tonight after they've negotiated in good faith a contract, and then we did something that's been unprecedented. We've never done this before in the history of the Metro Council, which is to hold a private citizen or corporation liable when we do not have the property tax levels that are projected or the sales tax levels that are projected to come to pass, to hold them liable for making us whole. We've never done that before in the history of Metro Council. And if we do that tonight, then the Sounds will probably walk away from this deal. So then you're killing the deal again. I had someone in the council pull the bill on first reading. They've never pulled the bill on first reading ever before. They've always supported each economic development project, every bond issue, every major sports. This particular colleague has done that. And then on this particular deal, they pull it on the first reading. And I was pointing out that they have supported every other deal in every other area of town. And then I guess some people heard some things that I didn't intend for them to hear. And so I wasn't saying anything that was not a fact. And so I'm just stating the facts to you today that we need to support this particular project. It will provide $150 million of economic impact in an area of town that we have not had that economic infusion of investment from the public and private sector. And so I'm asking you to please vote no on this amendment. Because if you vote yes on this amendment, this will be the first time that we have taken such action. Finally, as I close, we're providing $5 million to the state of Tennessee to build underground garage. We're providing $23 million for them to build a garage, 1,000-car garage. And yet, we are not offering liquidated damage clauses to say if you do not build the archive and if you do not build the library, we want our $28 million back. We're not putting that amendment here. But we are putting an amendment to penalize the Sounds, because it will kill this particular deal. Please vote no.
Point of order. Councilman.
my good friend made the statement the bill has never been pulled on first reading. Can we ask John if that is true?
Bills have been pulled on first reading on occasion.
Thank you.
Councilmember Mitchell, do you wish to speak on the amendment?
Yes. You know, I think this is reasonable. You know, a lot of people are probably startled that I'm standing up supporting my council member's amendment. But I mean, if they're going to build this development, and they say they're going to build this development, what's wrong with this amendment, ladies and gentlemen? We've been rushed through this, pushed into this. We've got to do it in record speed. But we don't want to give the taxpayers any safety net. You know, a gentleman stood up here earlier tonight and said something that I don't think anyone in this room, I haven't heard anyone discuss it. What if the Brewers pull their affiliation? What do we do then? So, I mean, I think this is a reasonable amendment. I'm going to support it. And with that being said, I'm going to render the rest of my time to the sponsor of this amendment.
I have nothing.
He has nothing. Do you want your time back? Okay. Councilmember Gilmore?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I rise not in support of this amendment. I guess I'm concerned because all I can focus on is some of my constituents have sent me emails saying, why now are we putting a $750,000 clause on it and we have not done it in the past with all the different things? Aren't we taxpayers as well? Don't we have a fiduciary responsibility in the past? And they're concerned that with this particular bill, and I think Councilman Maynard has brought it up, it's happening at this time. I can see if we've done it in the past, but we've never done it. So it's just so curious. So I'm just really concerned about that. And then the second piece is, at first we talked about process and having community meetings. So I partnered with my colleague in good faith because I thought that was the issue. I thought community meetings was the issue. We did that. The constituents came out. They spoke in support. The people that lived in the district, they talked about how well it was. We've heard again tonight, everyone came out. Only a couple people came out to speak against it, but they talked about jobs, the economic boom. What's different about this deal is that the Sounds are actually building the stadium and they're doing the real estate as well, and they have a history in that. So I think that that is a positive and that is very exciting. And once more, it was the concern about the money and whether it would be built. So Mr. Ward sent a letter tonight saying that he would be willing to build it by February 2016 and gave a specific time and said if I'm not able to, I would only ask for extension if it got caught up in the process of metro approvals. And then we have people say that they love baseball. They love it, but they can't support it. So I would say it's a strange kind of love. And I stand against this amendment, and I would ask others to support it. If you think about the way that I've supported you in the past, your different projects, so that your particular districts can thrive and survive. And I think I've been good at doing that. So I would ask that you support my district tonight, my community, not just for me, but for Nashville. We have to make sure things are equal. We have to make sure that all communities work. And before, I have never stood up on big projects and talked about fiduciary responsibility, taxpayers' money. We've trusted it in the past, and now we have a question with it. So I'm going to sit down because I can't see straight right now, and I don't know why I can't, but I would ask that you do not support this amendment and just think about your district and the pride you have when you bring economic development to your district. And think about others for a change, and those people who have supported you in your different initiatives. Thank you so much.
Councilmember Glover.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Yes, I do stand in support of this amendment, and yes, I have supported business, and I'm a pro-business person. But one gentleman spoke tonight from Hermitage, and it made me remember I'm elected to the 12th district, and that's what my responsibility is to the 12th district. And my people in the 12th district, it says no new taxes. And this does put our taxpayers, no matter what district you're in, it puts us in jeopardy of raising taxes and having a greater tax burden on the citizens. So I stand in support of this. I stand in support of business. Whether I like baseball or football or anything else is really irrelevant. What is relevant in my mind right now is that we have an obligation to the districts we are elected to. And in the event we put them at danger of raising their taxes, then I cannot stand in support of doing that. And I will yield to the sponsor if he'd like to make any additional comments.
Thank you. John, help me. Past public-private partnerships, we talked about trying to think of something that we would have put an amendment like this on. I couldn't come up with anything. Have you thought of anything else that was a bond sale with the taxpayers on the hook, a public-private partnership as opposed to some type of TIF or something else?
This is the first time I can remember having a public facility in conjunction with a private development where the TIF from that development is being used to pay the debt on the facility. I don't think that's happened before.
Thank you. So, I'm not trying to come up with something to kill the deal again. Council Lady Gilmore, I really appreciate the meeting last Saturday morning. As you recall, part of the request I made was the ability to ask some pointed questions to Metro department heads. Traffic and parking, neighborhood parking, redevelopment of the streets. Is it redirection of stormwater part of the bond sale, or is it going to be absorbed by the department, Metro Water? Planning Commission had all the approval processes been through. The archaeological type issues on those type of things. There was not a single department head there last Saturday morning. So it was a good opportunity for the sounds to make their pitch. The architect did an excellent job. Rich did his fine job as always. But there's still, this isn't anything personal. This is a chance, as people have said, to get questions answered on the front end so there are not delays on the back end. I don't want to see archaeological problems. I don't want to see neighborhood parking problems in Germantown that we should be addressing now rather than when they're a problem and then it has to go through the process of searching for a solution. We know that this is going to drive traffic to that neighborhood, so why are we not addressing those type of issues now? So that's my only response as to why this amendment is here and the process itself. There are just too many unanswered questions, but the main one, I want to vote for this project tonight. Pass the amendment, and I'm a yes vote. I'll be the first to stand up here. I'll buy season tickets.
Please address the chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hunt.
Madam President, please call for the question.
We have a motion and a second on previous question. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Previous question passes. We're now back on the vote on the amendment, and it's going to be a machine vote. Madam Clerk, please close the machine and tally the vote.
Yes, 9, no, 26, 1 abstain.
Okay, the amendment fails. We're back on the original bill. Councilmember Stein.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I renew my motion with a brief comment.
We have a motion and a second, Councilman.
This project is a true public-private partnership. In fact, it's a double dose of public with Metro and the state, and it's a double dose of the private with Embry and MFP Baseball. I congratulate Mr. Riebling and the mayor's staff for facilitating the difficult discussions that went on with all of these entities to come to us with a proposal tonight. It's put together in a way that is not risk-free, but then none of the things we do here are risk-free. I believe it is as risk-adverse, however, as most any such economic development proposal I have encountered. The benefits are legion. A new venue for minor league baseball and the many families and fans in Middle Tennessee who love this type of summer entertainment. A venue that is designed as a year-round green space in an area just now mostly consisting of surface parking lots. Approximately $85 million in private mixed-use, multifamily, and retail development, all in a location that has a historical that has historical relevance to both Nashville and to baseball. And it combines with the 28th Avenue connector and the work being done by Jump on Jefferson Street to give the most important shot of adrenaline to the potential economic development that will aid what we call North Nashville to reach its fullest potential. Also, sort of submerged in all this, we acquired the TPS property, which gives the Nashville School for the Arts, which currently graduates 98% of its students, the chance to have a facility that not only meets its arts programming needs, but also to have decent wiring, soundproof classrooms, outdoor security lighting, and an HVAC system without ductwork in the hallways. So in short, this very complex public-private partnership is an example of our community and our government working together to make Nashville and Davidson County a better place for all of our citizens, and I urge your support for this bill.
Councilman Dominy.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. As I stated before, I would love to be a champion of this proposal, given the lack of fiscal responsibility and the failure of the previous amendment. I cannot do so for several reasons. 3 weeks ago, it's unprecedented for us to be moving this fast. 3 weeks ago, we had our first meeting on this in this very room. In that meeting, I asked the finance director, what is our current debt load as a city and what's our current revenue sources? You know when I received that information? 2:30 today. 2:30 today. That's a shame to try to properly vet a proposal in the time frame given. 3 weeks. Just for the record, I need to state that the fact is we currently have $3.8 billion of debt. That's before this proposal. If that's not correct, Rich? Mr. Evening? We have almost $300 million in debt service payments. That's before we add debt service payments to this. I think it's 290-something million in debt service payments. We have a $1.8 billion budget. And while I love to support the proposal, I cannot do so not having adequate time to properly vet the deal. When we don't get information until 4 hours before we begin a meeting that was asked for 3 weeks. It is shamefully disrespectful to this body. It's inappropriate for the taxpayers. And having failed to pass the prior amendment, I cannot support the bill.
Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Mr. Riebling, if you could do the quick thumbnail recap of how this repayment of the $65 million, I think it's $4.3 million a year, if you could explain which part of that is public and which part is private, I think that just might be helpful in terms of the understanding of.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Yes, Council Lady, I have my notes in front of me, but of the $4.3 million, $700,000 of it is a lease payment made by the Sounds, private party. I can't remember the exact numbers. You have it in front of me. It's like $650,000 are coming from the sales tax rebate under the state law. So that's, oh, great, thank you. I'm sorry. $650 comes from under state law. You're entitled to get the sales tax that's collected at the facility, both state and local, the growth in local and the state sales tax. So that's $650,000 that wouldn't occur without the ballpark being built. You're not entitled to that money at the current stadium. You have to build a new ballpark to get it. $750,000 would come from the development that the Sounds have proposed to do, the private development that the Sounds would propose to do. $675,000 would come from the private development that Embry Development has proposed to do along Jefferson Street. $520,000 comes from really from MDHA, from surplus tax revenues that they get from projects that have previously received TIF financing that have been repaid, and MDHA gets to keep that money under the terms of the redevelopment agreement until for other public purposes. And they've agreed, the board's agreed that, or will agree, that they would dedicate that stream of revenue to this project. Public money, I would argue. And then the other pieces of it are the two items that are currently in the budget that no longer will have to be in the budget. So it's savings. It's the $400,000 plus that are paid by the schools for the School of the Arts property, and then the $250,000 that city currently commits to the upkeep of Greer Stadium. So that's the total package. That comes up to about $3,945,000, and that leaves a shortfall of about $345,000 currently. Now that doesn't anticipate any growth or potential growth in any of these numbers, but that's the current estimated shortfall that we would have to fund on an annual basis. Does that help?
Yes, thank you. I didn't mean to catch you off guard on that. I think it's important for people to understand that $65 million is not just, it's not a general obligation bond that's adding to our tax base. Thank you.
Today, to change the capital improvement budget, it's no longer a general obligation bond to fund this. It's a revenue bond from these revenue sources.
Councilmember Harrison.
Yes, I'd call the question, please.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor of previous question, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Machine vote.
This is on the previous question.
This is on the previous question motion. Madam Clerk, please close the machines and tally the vote.
Ayes 24, noes 12.
Previous question passes. Yep. It passes. We're back on the original 593. We're going to have a machine vote. Just one moment. Has everyone voted? Madam Clerk, please close the machines and tally the vote.
Yes 28, no 7, abstain 1.
593 passes. Next is BL 2013-594, approves agreements for the acquisition and disposition of real property relating to the construction of the ballpark at Sulphurdale and the acquisition of a parcel of property of the former Tennessee Preparatory School located on Foster Avenue. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports.
Councilmember Stein.
Budget and Finance approved 9-4, none against.
Councilmember Hunt.
Planning and Zoning approved 12-4-0 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Gilmore.
Move for approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Mitchell.
Yeah, I've got an amendment I'd like to offer.
Councilman, go ahead.
John, would you like to explain the amendment?
No, the amendment was submitted by the deadline yesterday. It was not considered in committee, but the rules do not require amendments to be considered by a committee before they can be offered. The amendment would condition approval of the agreement with the state, the property agreement with the state, would condition that upon a provision being added stating that the TPS property could not be used for a new charter school or the expansion of an existing charter school on the property.
Okay, with the explanation of this amendment, before I offer this amendment, I'd like to ask the finance director, are we going to be getting any rent from any TPS tenants, TPS land tenants?
Yes. The STEM charter school currently leases from the state because it's state property. They would be transferred to us, and they make a lease payment.
Okay, well, that just wasn't explained in the revenue stream. We talked about just a moment ago where all the money was coming from. You know, in offering this amendment, I'd like to move the amendment.
We have a motion and a second.
You know, I just don't understand, you know, we're talking about one area of town, redeveloping one area of town, and now we've got this parcel of land, a totally different area of town, and it really just doesn't fit in this whole proposal overall. I mean, it's just kind of an afterthought, let's throw it in, you know, but it has a big effect, I think. I think it's sending the message that, you know, we're going to do all we can for charter schools, even while we're building a baseball stadium. But, you know, our public education, y'all can cut y'all's budget. You know, we've told them that before. So I just don't think this belongs. You know, we've talked about the cost of this overall project. Well, the cost of this overall project could be reduced greatly if we just build the stadium on land we currently own. Then we wouldn't have to pay the state for a parking garage. We wouldn't have to, you know, pay the state for an underground garage. We wouldn't have to pay the state for this land we don't need. So I think it's a very simple amendment that we're just setting forth that this piece of land that is in this deal, you know, I voted for the sound, so no one can say I'm up trying to blow up this deal. I voted for the capital improvement budget amendment, the 27 votes they needed, so I'm for the sounds. I think the sounds have been put in a bad position to take what they've been offered, and they need a baseball stadium. We all know Greer Stadium is an old rundown facility. The Sounds deserve better than this, but the Sounds don't deserve to be put into this position to be part of this. I mean, this does not belong in this whatsoever. This is just tossing this in. I mean, it's setting a bad precedent, and I think we can just make it clear that if we're looking for an even trade and we don't have other motives with this land, my amendment, it's kind of like Charlie's amendment. It really doesn't matter. You know, it's just doing the right thing. We just need land. And School for the Arts, hey, we're getting the land for the School for the Arts, a public school, and that's great. So everything will be great. But if we're trying to do other things with this piece of property, then I think my amendment is very relevant. So with that being said, I ask for you to please vote for my amendment.
Councilman Todd, do you wish to speak on the amendment?
No.
Okay, I'll come back to you. Councilman Scott Davis, do you wish to speak on the amendment?
Yes, Madam President.
Okay.
I just want to thank this body. It's been a long night, and I'll be brief. However, I urge you to vote against this amendment. Charter schools, just like any public school, is a public school. Nashville School of the Arts is benefiting from the legislation here tonight. My child is zoned to go there after she graduates from IT Crestwell. However, though, I have to stand here and I need to let the body know that, once again, they're all public schools, and we're here to help all public schools. Some public schools do well. Some public schools need a little bit more prayer, need a little bit more help. But I love my Nashville schools. I was born and raised on public schools. And I did all my middle school through high school years in a Metro Nashville public school. And one thing I need to say here is that we support all schools here, and I really wish that the gentleman from Bellevue would please, and I'm asking him nicely, to remember all schools are public schools, charter and the regular district schools here. And I urge everyone in this chamber to please vote against this amendment. Thank you.
Councilman Stein, do you wish to speak on the amendment?
Madam Vice Mayor, members of the council, I urge you to oppose this amendment. This is not an afterthought. This property we tried to acquire this when we were talking about a previous land swap with the state. It is one of the most attractive parts of this entire arrangement. To acquire this 28 acres, I assure you, is essential to the Nashville School for the Arts. The school board has correctly, for the last decade, put very little improvement into this building simply because from year to year we had an annual lease. We didn't know if we were going to keep the property, so why should anyone invest in it? These kids and these faculties out there are doing the best they can in a building. If we don't own it, then the school board shouldn't improve it. And as soon as we do, I believe they're going to do the necessary improvements. The charter school that's on that property in a building has a lease regardless of whether it's us or whether it's the state. I would also tell you that what this bill does is it ties the hand of the school board in making decisions about young people on the future of this property one way or the other. And I would also tell you that based on my conversations with school board members, regardless of where they are about the issue of charter schools, there are huge, broad support throughout the entire school board for this particular one, and even the leading opponent of charter schools in our community absolutely supports this and what they're doing there. So acquiring this property is huge for our community. There's also a theater there, an old building there, historic building that we're going to take ownership of that could allow Nashville School for the Arts for the first time in their history to have all of their student body in one place for an assembly. It could also serve the community in huge number of ways because there's not a theater complex, a theater anywhere within a several mile radius of all of this. So it could really become a center of a part of town that is underserved. So I urge you to vote no to this. This is not part of and shouldn't be part of any kind of battle of charter or public or anything else. We need this property. We need it for the existing young people in our community that are in both schools, but certainly the Nashville School for the Arts deserves to have a facility that is safe and that all of us would want to spend time in. Thank you.
Councilmember Bedney, do you wish to speak on the amendment?
Yes, my daughter attends the Nashville School of the Arts, and I can tell you, because what I get from the parents and the administration of that school, that they are extremely excited of being able to own that building, for the Nashville to own the building and to be able to start doing the improvements they need to do so the kids can have a better environment to go and learn. I'm trying to understand what Councilmember Mitchell is proposing, but I think that is a decision for the school board. I don't think that necessarily that is a decision for us to make. Just like I oppose the charter, the state regulating how our schools should be, I think it is not up to the Metro Council to make those decisions either. I think it's up to the school board. And if they decide to grant the school or expand the school there or not, that will be for them to decide. So, I mean, I understand and I appreciate what he's trying to do, but I don't think it's for us to do. And I will hate for the kids in the Nashville School of the Arts not to get the improvements they need. So I will ask you to you vote against this amendment, and that you vote for the legislation. Thank you.
Councilmember Langster, do you wish to speak on the amendment?
Yes, Madam Vice Mayor. Ladies and gentlemen, that property is a diamond in the rough. It really is. And we have the opportunity to pick up this piece of property, brush it off, make it the best that we can make it. We can't do a thing with it now. Please, please, let's get together on this one amendment. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Moore, do you wish to speak on the amendment?
Previous question.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor of previous question, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. No. Previous question passes.
Point of order for clarification.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Cooper, does this amendment affect the acquisition of this property?
No.
So if this amendment passes, we still acquire the property as it is in this deal, right?
Subject to, well, the state would have to agree to it. And if the state said, wait a minute, we're not putting any charter school language in there, then that would affect the deal. So it would be up to assuming the state went along with it, then it would not have any impact.
Okay, so it doesn't affect the current school.
Previous question passed.
I'm asking for clarification, Vice Mayor.
Okay, I thought he gave it to you.
Well, there are more than one points of clarification that I need. The present school that's there is not affected. The public school that's there is not affected by this amendment.
If the deal goes through, that's correct.
Right. And the present charter school that's there is not affected by this amendment in its current state.
The point of order needs to be a question about our procedure, not about the legislation.
Well, I'm sorry. I need to know what I'm voting on.
The previous question has passed. We are now going to have a machine vote on the proposed amendment. Madam Clerk, please close the machine and tally the vote.
Yes, 6, no 29, abstain 1.
Thank you. We're now back on the amendment fails. We're now back on the original bill, 594. Councilman Todd, do you wish to speak on the bill?
No.
Okay. Councilman Harmon.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I would yield my time to Councilmember Mitchell.
Councilmember Mitchell.
Yes, I think what we were totally confused. I am all for the School of the Arts. Let's get that clear. I think we had a large councilman that spoke, and he misrepresented my amendment as saying I was against the School of the Arts. I am all for that Metro Public School. But as previous said, we had this land swap deal before us once before, and we declined it for numerous reasons, one being the reason that I offered the amendment here tonight. And again, we're mixing, I don't know why we're mixing this subject into building a baseball stadium, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't fit, it shouldn't be a part of that, but I just wanted to clarify what my council member colleague in the front, tried to say that I was against the Nashville School of the Arts. This was about any new non-public schools being established on that land. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Councilman Dominic.
I rise in support of this bill. While there's a lot of controversy and discussion over the overall package, as a parent of a Nashville School of the Arts child and a huge supporter of the schools, I'm also a supporter of the choice that charter schools give us. So I rise in support of the bill.
Councilmember Todd.
Point of order, Mr. Cooper, I made a mistake on the amendment. I meant to vote no, and I voted yes. I don't think the clerk can change that, but I would like to state for the record that, and I know Councilor Langston did this one time, we pushed the wrong button, but I want to be recorded as a no on the last vote. Thank you. If that's permissible.
We can note that. We cannot change your vote. Okay, seeing no further discussion, all in favor, we're going to have a machine vote. Pardon? The bill itself. We've done previous question, we've done the amendment, now we're back on the bill itself. 594. Has everyone voted? Everyone hasn't voted. Madam Clerk, please close the machine and tally the vote.
Yes, 33, no 1, abstain 2.
Motion passes. We're now on BL 2013-591, amends the solid waste provisions of the Metro Code. Councilmember Stein.
Committee reports.
Councilmember Domini.
Public Works Committee approved 6 and 0.
Thank you, Councilmember Stein.
Budget and Finance approved as amended, 10-4, none against.
Go ahead.
I move approval, and I move the amendment. And Mr. Cooper, would you give a brief overview of the amendment?
The amendment is basically housekeeping. It's to close a loophole that would clarify that if you're hauling C&D material to a landfill of any type, then you would be required to pay the waste generator fee.
Okay, sorry. We get it. Sorry, Councilman Stein.
I renew my motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Now, move as amended.
I move as amended. Move the bill as amended.
We have a motion and a second. Councilman Harmon.
I'm sorry, I had a point of order. Did we consider the bills on introduction and
No, we're going to go do that as soon as we finish with this.
Super, thank you.
That's why I'm getting Councilman Stein so frustrated, because I'm not paying close attention. Okay, we now have a motion and a second on the bill as amended. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We're now going to go back to bills on introduction and first reading. Should any of those be pulled? Seeing none, is there a motion for their approval? Second. We have a motion and a second for bills on first reading. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Now we'll go back to bills on second reading. BL 2013-592 amends the Metro Code to allow weekend beer deliveries for special events. Councilmember Westerheim.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Committee reports.
Councilmember Perdue. Mr. Councilman Pridemore, could you see if it's his committee report for 592?
The Public Safety, Beer and Regulation Beverage Committee voted 592 for, 4-0 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Westerheim.
Thank you. I would move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Tigert.
I don't know what this is about, but it sounds like the most promising bill we're going to consider tonight.
Are you in favor of it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-596 accepts a deed from Wilson Bank and Trust to Metro Government for property located at 2471 Pennington Bend Road for use as part of the Greenway system. Councilmember Claiborne.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Tigert.
Parks, Recreation, and Library approved 5-0.
Councilmember Hunt.
Planning and Zoning approved 12-4-0 against.
Councilmember Stein.
Budget approved 10-4, none against.
Thank you. Councilmember Claiborne.
I move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-597 authorizes the acquisition of right-of-way slope and temporary construction easements for parcels located at 4th Avenue South and 8th Avenue South for the extension of Division Street. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports.
Councilmember Dominy.
Public Works Committee approved 7-4-0 against.
Councilmember Hunt.
Planning, Zoning, Historical approved 12-4-0 against.
Councilmember Stein.
Budget approved 10-4, none against.
Councilmember Gilmore.
Move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-598 accepts a contribution of $60,000 from the residential group for signal improvements at the intersection of 31st Avenue North and Long Boulevard. Councilmember Langster.
Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Dominy.
Public Works Committee approved 7-4-0 against.
Councilmember Stein.
Budget approved 10-4, none against.
Councilmember Langster.
Move for approval, please.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-599 amends the official street and alley acceptance and maintenance map by abandoning a portion of alley number 114 right-of-way and easement. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you. Committee reports.
Councilmember Dominy.
Public Works Committee approved 7-4 and 0 against.
Councilmember Harrison.
Traffic and Parking approved 3-4 and 0 against.
Councilmember Hunt.
Planning and Zoning approved 12-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Gilmore.
Okay, I'd like to move the amendment.
Okay, is there a second on the amendment? Any discussion? All in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Amendment passes. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-600 adopts the official street and alley acceptance and maintenance map and the geographic information systems street and alley centerline layer. Councilmember Dominy.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move approval. Now that's committee
Councilmember
reports.
Hunt.
Planning and Zoning approved 12-4, 0 against.
I need a Public Works report too.
Public Works Committee approved 7-4 and 0 against, and with that, I move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-601 readopts the Metro Code to include supplemental and replacement pages and ordinances of a general and permanent nature enacted on or before July the 2nd, 2013. Councilmember Berry.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I am the committee report. Committee voted 6-4, 0 against. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-577 amends the Metro Code to require a certified appraisal prior to the purchase of property for use as you're right. We'll go back to the first one on third reading. BL 2013-552 amends the Metro Code pertaining to the parking of motor vehicles for sale on commercial property. Councilmember Harmon.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. All committee reports are in, so I would move approval of the bill as amended.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-576 authorizes Metro departments to apply for grants that do not require a Metro match without council consideration. Councilmember Stein.
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-577 amends the Metro Code to require certified appraisal prior to the purchase of property for use as park land or open space. Councilmember Jernigan.
Okay, thank you. Move approval, please.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-578 amends the Metro Code pertaining to the audit requirement for nonprofit organizations receiving grants from Metro government. Councilmember Tigert.
Move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-579 amends the Metro Code to delete the requirement that the county clerk's office issue a separate decal as proof of payment of the local motor vehicle regulatory license fee. Councilmember Stein.
Move approval with the briefest of comment.
We have a motion and a second.
Now, I just want to acknowledge that in the back is our clerk and former Councilwoman Legislator Santini, who have sat through this entire meeting waiting for this piece of legislation, and we so enjoy having you with us. And I'm renew my motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Now you can go home. BL 2013-581 grants permanent easements for properties located at 2801 Tucker Road and 3133 West Hamilton Avenue to Piedmont Natural Gas Company for the purchase of installing and maintaining a gas line. Councilmember Stein.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-582 authorizes Metro government to enter into a participation agreement with 2410 West End Avenue LLC regarding public water services improvements. Councilmember Langster.
With all committees reporting in, I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Thank you.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-583 authorizes Nashville Billiard Company at 927 8th Avenue South to construct and maintain underground and aerial encroachments in the right-of-way of Archer Street. Councilmember Moore.
With all committee reports in, I move for approval, please.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-584 amends the official street and alley acceptance and maintenance map by abandoning a portion of alley number 515 right-of-way. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. With all committee reports in, I move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Just want to remind everyone that we have a special meeting next Tuesday at 6 p.m. So we have 3 meetings during the month of December. Is there a motion to adjourn? All in favor, please say aye.